Hello, 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 my dear friends, my dear young titans. We are back. We are back. We took just a little bit of break actually after Thanksgiving so that we could regroup and get you the best stuff that you really, really are looking forward to. And now we are back. And today's session, I'm telling you, is going to be an eye opener. It is going to be very different from all the sessions that you have had before because this talks about your mind, your subconscious mind. But let me just first give you a brief introduction of what the Young Titans platform is. So, if you are coming here for the first time, well, welcome. And if you're a returning viewer, welcome back. So, Young Titans platform is where young professionals and entrepreneurs join after their college graduation or when they are in the workforce to propel their career, get inspired, and become a part of a thriving community. Listen, if you're not a part of it, you are missing out. Why don't you do one thing and do a favor to everyone else? Share this. Share this live recording with your friends, your family, and others. Like us on our Facebook page. Subscribe to our channel on YouTube. And you know what? Send us live questions. Start sharing and tagging people. Your Facebook comments are really helpful for us so we can answer your questions. Also, you can email us at info@unexleadership.com. See, Young Titans platform, the YTP, fills in the gap from what you know and what you need to know for you to succeed. So we are here for you. In short, the gap between you and the leadership as young professionals embarking the workforce. See, there are colleges, schools, and departments when you start a career. On the other hand, I mean, they have leadership training and many technical trainings in each corporation for their workforce. But what is out there for new graduates to excel? There is nothing. That is the reason we created this platform. So, to find the best career, once you have started, where to go, how to grow, that's what we are bringing to you. See, the platform, we have various speakers or panelists that come each week with different backgrounds. And often we have very high achievers. Sometimes we have young generation achievers as well to show you and teach you what you can do at your stage where you are to excel in your profession and your career. So, who am I? Well, I'm Raj Kapoor. I'm the founder and CEO of Options Ahead. Over 30 years, I've worked as a chief financial officer and have been an entrepreneur with businesses on the side. Now I teach wealth and mindset principles, including running an online course, Guidance to Wealth, which is for mentoring and guidance. I'm an executive and wealth mindset coach, host an internet radio station on IBGR.network, and talk to small businesses. I'm also an author, entrepreneur, and have multiple businesses. My passion is really to make a difference in lives of people who are starting out and who really, really are looking forward to this change. Let me introduce you to a few folks who are going to be a part of this panel and team, and then we will introduce our keynote speaker. Here's my good friend, Sheikh Rahman. You know, Sheikh, he is actually the orchestrator and the guy who created the YTP platform. This is his brainchild. My good friend is an engineer by background and is the founder of Unix Leadership for Training. See, he emphasizes the value one needs to have. He liked to work with people and was slowly drawn to people who value people, where leadership journey started his career. He wanted to learn how people do that. His inspiration are a few people that include some people in his community, his family, starting with his grandmother, his daughter, his sister, his wife, from whom he learned a lot of leadership basics. He likes to hang out with like minded people and he likes to share or teach what he knows. One reason, behind that is he knows teachers learn the most. Well, welcome, Sheikh. Now, let me introduce to you my dear friend Ron Cooper. Ron has been here with us from the very inception since we started the YTP platform. Ron and Marty are retired US Air Force and CIA officers. Now they're in their 52nd year of marriage and are relationship coaches. Ron helps organize, develop high performance teams through human behavior insight, personal coaching, and leadership training. See, both Ron and Marty serve through their Cooper Culture organization. Now, Ron has been creating podcasts, and I'm telling you, you need to listen to those. They he and Marty are exceptional at those. They also have a relationship course, which I definitely believe that you should take. Welcome, Ron. Now we have a new person, a guy who has been a very dear friend of mine and a part of our team now, Glenn Hodges. Welcome, Glenn.
Thank you, Ron.
Glenn is a lifelong student of personal development, a result coach, and a motivational speaker and a teacher, dedicated to help people just like you to achieve goals many would call impossible. Experience has taught him the key to living an abundant and rewarding life is to dream big, to think big, to take massive action while drawing on your inner strength. The lion within. Glenn pushes his clients to shoot for the moon because if they miss, they will still land among the stars. What a beautiful analogy. He's the founder of Chattaguna Self Improvement Meetup, a free virtual mastermind group. And you know what? I have been a part of that. It is just amazing. And Glenn has been a mentor to me, a friend to me, and I have learned so much from him. I really value his friendship, and I'm really happy that he's here. He's also a member of the John Maxwell team and serves on boards of several nonprofit organizations. He earned a Bachelor of Journalism degree from the University of Georgia, after which he climbed the corporate ladder of Fortune 50 electric company for 14 years, the first company he founded with no prior experience. After resigning from one, and his only employer was international executive search firm. His first client was his former employer. Welcome, welcome, Glenn. I'm glad that you have become a part of our team here, and it's
Thank you,
going.
Raj. It's indeed a pleasure. And let's put ditto and exclamation points about learning from one another. What I have learned from you and from Sheikh is immeasurable. So thank you for the opportunity.
It's a pleasure. And finally, I'm going to introduce to you Dr. Halida. Here you are, Dr. Alida. Every single time I talk about you, I cannot know where to stop. Dr.
Thank you.
Halida Akhtar is the faculty member of International Health Department at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Her achievement and rewards will be very long. But let me talk a little bit. Dr. Halida has demonstrated her leadership roles by founding a reproductive health research institute. She helped develop reproductive health research capacity through conducting scientific research in Bangladesh. She has over 40 journal publications and served on many committees of WHO, Geneva, International Medical Advisory Panel of IPPF, London, on alternate business model of Packard Foundation, more. Her achievements and rewards, as I said, are very long. We will be here for a long time. Well, I'll tell you this though. She is United Nations 2006 Population Award winner. She's our advisor and inspiring faculty and mentor for Young Titans platform on this community.
Thank you very
Welcome,
much, Raj.
Dr.
Thank you very
Halil.
much, Raj. Thank you.
And now, finally, I'll just go over a few of the guys and the people and our mentors, our colleagues who are not able to come here yet, but they have been a very big part of this platform who have helped it develop and grow. First is Jan Roberts, really great friend, really great guy. Second is Arthi Moore. Third is Kamrul from Bangladesh. These guys, you will see them soon. You will see them soon. But right now, they're really busy in doing some exceptional work, and we still get help from them. So, guys, now is the time to introduce to you the keynote speaker for today. And I'm not going to take away from anyone. So, I would like to give this over to Sheikh to introduce my good friend. Sheikh.
Thank you, Raj. Wonderful, wonderful. So wonderful introduction. Your the way you explain and everything. That's awesome, and definitely we appreciate your time and everybody's time. But people who are watching on live or later on, just to let you know, Raj is a good friend and mentor to me as well, and helping us grow this platform as we are going into the second and third phase into 2021. But let me introduce you somebody who is going to be here today talking to us. He is Jeff Aviles. In one word, Jeff is energy. He explains himself that he's a fighter of fear. He's an example. In fact, he's the second exemplary speaker that I know who overcame stuttering and became a speaker. Recently, he was in the same stage with Les Brown and came as one of the top 10 speakers list. Overcoming fear gave him the confidence to attend graduate school. Today, he helps people overcoming fear using different techniques, and he will explain as a young titan in your early 20s or in age that you are in, wherever you are, you need to do how you need to control your inner mind that we know as subconscious mind. The attributes that you need and Jeff uses to empower your ability to become more successful are hypnosis, overcome and control stress, eliminate anxiety, overcome mental barriers, gain control of your life, get and stay motivated, increase confidence, set and accomplish goals, move forward from the past, overcome fear or failure, become business or career driven, managing negative self-talk. I'm so thankful to be friend with Jeff. He is a motivational speaker and who himself is a fiercely motivated person that I know of. Him and I have been working together almost on a chance for some time. I value his input to this young platform's Titans platform. He adds value wherever he goes, and today he is sharing his ideas and professional strength for our community. I suggest that you take a pen and paper, utilize the points and the process he will explain in your life. Also, if you have any question that you would like to ask him, Jeff, or for that matter to any of us, please do so in the chat or the Facebook comments. And if you want to be involved more intricately with YTP, please comment or be in touch with us, as Raj said, info@unexleadership.com, or you like our Facebook or share our YouTube channels and subscribe to it. In the descriptions, I will have those information. If you want to be in live session with us or in our stage, or have a speaker that you have in mind who you think is eligible to be here, please let us know that also. But without any further delay, let me introduce to all of you our good friend, our speaker today, Jeff Aviles. Jeff, yours, and it's open to everybody, whoever wants to jump in, and any question, anything, please come in. Jeff.
And thank you, Sheikh. Such an amazing introduction. I like what you're doing with the platform here. I'm going to try as much as possible not to scream, but keep in mind I have a lot of energy, so it's hard for me to hold it in. So if I blow out your speakers, I apologize in advance. So with that being said, I wanted to tell a little story before I get into my presentation. I had a friend one time, and he was at this point in his life, he was in his early 20s. He was what you would consider a young titan. He just finished graduating from college, and he was having relationship problems. Every girl he met for some reason was crazy. I think he was making them crazy, but that's another story, another topic for another day. he kept switching jobs, and every job he found was not paying him what he deserved. And when he finally did find jobs that paid him what he deserved, he found a way to blow his money. So 1 month he'll be making 5K, and next month he'll have 10K in debt. It's like no matter how much he made, he managed to find a way to kick himself down, to self-sabotage himself. And he kept going on this pattern for years and years and years, until I finally told him, hey, just let me help you fix this pattern. And I helped him fix this pattern. And he was able to break it and start engaging in satisfying relationships, but also double his income. And these were all limiting blocks that he had inside of himself. And today, that's what I'm going to go over. I'm going to go over 3 ways that you're sabotaging yourself. And if you're a young Titan or a seasoned vet, you may still be engaging in these behavior patterns. So it's important to learn how to identify them and overcome them. So with that being said, I'm going to jump into my topic now. So first off, I wanted to talk about the subconscious mind. And I want you to take a second to really consider what the subconscious mind is. Because a lot of people talk about it, but they don't really explain what it does. So take a moment and become aware of how right now, this instant, there are 1 million cells being created and destroyed, and you don't even feel it. Your heart is beating and you aren't controlling it. Hair is growing out of your face, out of your eyebrows, out of other areas of your body that I don't need to mention, right? All of these amazing things are happening right now, and you aren't even aware of it. It's one of the greatest gifts we've been given. It's our best friend. It's actually there to protect us and to ensure that we're operating at optimal state. But what is also there to do for us is it's kind of like an emergency brake for us. Have you ever been driving in a car with a new driver? Like, for instance, I have a bunch of brothers, and I taught them all how to drive. And every time I taught them how to drive, I almost had 6 heart attacks. And it would be the same scenario where they almost hit a car and I'm hitting the brakes on my side, not realizing I'm not driving, and I'm stomping just basically on the floor of the car, holding the little handle, praying to God, like, please don't let this be the day, right? And as I'm holding the little handle on the car, as I'm hitting the brakes, it's my subconscious mind hijacking and taking over me to protect me. Because that's primarily what your subconscious mind is designed for. It's designed to protect you. Oftentimes, it protects us, but sometimes it does us some harm. And that's what I'm going to talk about today. How your subconscious mind is harming you, and it isn't even aware of it. And you possibly aren't aware of it either. So there are a couple of reasons why your subconscious mind is harming you. And it comes down to you were conditioned the wrong way, or it developed a way of coping with a problem, and it took that problem. Let's say, for instance, it took a hammer and decided the solution to everything is now a hammer. So your subconscious mind, for some reason, now is thinking that the best way to operate is using this one tool. It isn't aware of the other array of arsenal that you had at your disposal that could get you better results, and that isn't going to cost you a lot of money. So one of the primary ways that your subconscious mind is sabotaging you, well, the mechanism that is sabotaging you through, is the body's fight, flight, or freeze response. And I'm sure everybody here is familiar, but for you viewers, you may not be familiar with what it is. So I'm going to give you a brief demonstration of how the fight, flight, and freeze response work. So let's say, for instance, we're in the jungle and we're watching lions hunt, and I have me, Shake, and Raj on the car with me, and we're using binoculars, and we're just looking through, and we see the majestic gazelle. You know, when it's walking around, it looks beautiful, it's stunning. We're like, wow, this is nature. And then all of a sudden, we see a lion out the corner of our eye. Well, actually, a lioness, because lions don't really hunt, it's the female that hunts. So you see a lion, right, peeking right out the corner, and you go, oh, this is not going to end up good, right? So the lion starts hunting, and the gazelle turns around and it gets a glimpse of the lion. And now it has three choices to make. It can either fight the lion, which, to tell the truth, its chances of beating this lioness aren't that good. It could run from the lion, which it has a high probability of escaping. Or it could play dead, which has about a 50-50 chance of working. Because typically when lion finds an animal that's just dead, it leaves it alone because they believe that the animal may have died from a virus or disease, so they don't eat it. So this is such a complex system that's operating that your conscious mind can't process it. Your conscious mind doesn't have the chance to think about it. So what happens is your subconscious mind takes over and it makes the decision for you. So without even knowing it, without even thinking about it, the subconscious mind tells you to fight, to run, or to freeze. That's why oftentimes you'll see people stop right before a car's about to hit them, and it's just like they're frozen. You go, why didn't you move? And it's because their subconscious mind took over and thought this was the best scenario that they should use inside this situation. Now, what becomes problem now there's nothing wrong with fighting, running, or freezing. All three are normal. But what becomes problematic is when you let them control your life. And as a young Titan, it's going to be really easy to fall into the habit of either fighting all your problems, of running from all your problems, or ignoring your problems. So I wanted to impart some tools for you today to learn how you can overcome this. And I'm going to use a bit of cases that I've worked with in the past to help individuals understand how these problems manifest and how you can overcome them. Now, the first problem is fight mode, right? And there's nothing wrong with fighting your problems. But what is wrong is, for instance, this client that I was working with. And for the purposes of confidentiality, we're going to call this client Max. So Max was a workaholic. He worked all the time. He worked from morning to nighttime. His answer to every problem was work harder, work harder, work harder, work harder. His relationship suffered as a result of him working so hard. His health suffered as a result of him working so hard. And most of all, he was a boring guy because he worked all the time. Now, the subconscious mind kept telling him that he needed to push through and work, because the more he worked, the more he ignored the real problems going on. And the problem going on was that he didn't feel alive. He felt empty inside. So every time he stopped working, he got this emptiness feeling inside of himself. So this emptiness feeling caused him to continue to work harder and harder and harder, which eventually caused him to burn out. And there are many different forms and ways of how people fight. But typically one of the reasons that they activate the fight mode is because they feel empty inside. And in order to ignore or distract themselves from this feeling, they'll use fight mode. Now, one of the ways that John could have used to resolve this feeling inside of himself is he could have just paid attention to the fact that he was working to run away from his problems. He was working to possibly not have to deal with the stresses of home life, not have to deal with the stresses of finances and bills. But instead, he proceeded to work and work and work, which wasn't very productive for him. So if you find yourself engaging in work mode all the time, ask yourself, what am I working for? What's the use of working on holidays? Like, is this really going to make that much more of a difference? Like, we live in a society that tells you you have to work hard all the time, all the time, all the time. When in actuality, you have to work smart. It's not really about working harder. So if you find yourself constantly working, that's a red flag signal that there's something about your life that you don't like. Because being quite honest, if you ask me if I'd rather work on a Monday or go to Disney World on a Monday, I'm going to say Disney World. And maybe it's the kid inside of me, but that's a sign of a healthy human, a person that's willing to take fun over work. So if you're constantly choosing work over fun, there's something unhealthy about the way you're operating, and you're going to eventually burn out. So this is just a life lesson I'm passing on, and believe me, and believe you, there's been nights that I've worked Christmas Day and New Year's Eve, and I was just working, and I burned out. Like I ended up sick. So I want to pass these lessons on to young Titans in order to make sure that they don't follow that misstep of being very money hungry and not caring about a quality of life. Now, the second one is flight mode. And flight mode is typically what we all engage in a little bit, but I wanted to share one of my clients. So let's call her Jennifer. Jennifer was the type of person that's extremely organized, pay attention to detail. She was the type of individual that if she came to your house and the picture was crooked, she would fix it, right? Everything had to be in order. Everything had to be organized correctly. Her biggest issue was she would procrastinate. And this is typically what you get with people that utilize flight mode a lot. They take on so much. They take on like a mountain of information, a mountain of problems, and then they wait till the last minute to do it. And they get all this anxiety inside of them, and they go, why do I always wait? Why do I always wait? And it's because they're self-sabotaging themselves, right? They have a fear of failure. So they take on this task of making this complicated, comprehensive project. They dot all their T's, they make it longer than it has to be. And they're doing all of this because they want it to be perfect, because they believe if it's perfect, then it means that they're perfect. So they continue to build, and they build so much to the point that they can't even finish. Or they've built up the problem so much in their mind that it's too big to take on. So they avoid it. And what is the most common way people avoid these problems this day and age? They go on Facebook and they just scroll, right? Or they go on Instagram and scroll, they'll watch Netflix, they'll do all of these other things. And they'll completely procrastinate and avoid dealing with the problem. And this is a scary state, because you could be very successful operating with this aspect of your subconscious mind that's sabotaging you. I've encountered people that have had very successful careers and haven't really had to overcome this problem, but they end up sick because you can't operate at this high level for a long time. Our bodies just aren't built for it. Our bodies aren't built to operate on stress mode 24/7. So if you're an individual struggling with this particular problem, what I advise is that you start to become aware that your work is only a small reflection of who you are. Not everything has to be a 10. Some things just need to get done. For instance, the client that I was talking about was constantly worried about turning in the correct work to her boss, but her boss would have accepted a 6 out of 10 level of work because they just cared about quantity and not quality. But this person had it wrapped up inside her head that everything had to be quality. Everything had to be quality. And her boss butted heads because they just wanted the work done. And this is what happens with this personality sometimes. They continue to work and work and work to perfection, and perfection isn't really what was required. So understanding, like I said, that your work is just a part of who you are and doesn't define you. Another one, don't make things so complicated. Relax a little bit. It's okay to fail at a couple of things. There's nothing wrong with failing. And the next thing, and the most important thing, point fun at yourself. A lot of times with this personality, they struggle with seeing the humor in things, or they struggle with failing. So pointing fun at yourself is a great way to overcome that barrier, that mental block. Now the next one is freezing. And freezing is the one that's always ignored. Like whenever you hear fight or flight, nobody ever talks about freezing. And it's funny to me because freezing is something that we all engage in at parts of our life, but there are certain people that engage in it more than others, and it sometimes leads to depression. So you got to be very careful when you start to see the freeze mode. And this is, and I'm going to use another one of my clients as an example of freeze mode. Let's go with the name Kevin. Kevin was an extremely ambitious individual. He would take on multiple projects, make a lot of connections, but he wouldn't see results. Like he expected instant results and didn't see instant results. So when he noticed that something didn't work, he would jump to something else, and he would jump to something else, kind of like shiny object syndrome. And he kept jumping and jumping and jumping. And what ended up happening is he started to see a trend of failure, 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 failure. And every time he's seeing the failure, it's chipping at his confidence. And as it's chipping at his confidence, he's not putting in as much effort as he used to. So every time he failed, the work rate would drop a little, 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 little. So he began to form the internal belief that I'm just a failure and I'm just gonna fail every step of the way. And what ended up happening is he slowly started to disengage from applying himself and from working with others, and kind of was just freezing, well, not freezing, was isolating himself away from everybody. Now, this is oftentimes, did you have a question? Okay. This is oftentimes what happens when somebody starts to suffer from depression, right? And I'm not saying as a young Titan that you're going to have this problem, but I'm just saying to be aware of it. In life, you're going to have a bunch of stumbling blocks, a bunch of roadblocks, but it's crucial that you continue to keep the same work rate up and kind of have goldfish memory, where you think about it for 3 seconds and just move on forward, learning from it, but moving on forward. Because the downside of it may be that you aren't successful, you wind up in a deep depression. Now, those are the 3 ways that you're sabotaging yourself. And I want to layer it on top with another bit of information. We have something called the homeostatic balance inside of ourselves. And this is kind of like how our body regulates temperature. It basically keeps everything in balance in our life. So whenever there's something that's out of balance, this system regulates it. And it's also responsible on a spiritual level for balancing us out. So whenever you get somebody that's trying to break out of a certain level of income, like let's say somebody that wins the lottery, this mechanism will bring them back down. And this is a horrific system if you're trying to move up in life. Because why would a system work against you? But this is because it's creating a balance within you. So one of the only ways to break this homeostatic balance is to start to create an image within yourself that you're breaking this upper limit. And it's difficult to create this image within yourself, because if you think about yourself right now, you have a pre-programmed image that you never thought about. Like let's say, for instance, I say, think about the last time you jumped in your car. And your mind will create a snapshot of you going inside a car. And it's that image right there that's sometimes holding you back, that image, that identity of the person. Because while I may see somebody happy jumping inside the car, you may see somebody depressed, or somebody that isn't up to par, or somebody who isn't that successful going into this particular vehicle. And as you start to change this image, how you feel about yourself starts to change just a little bit. And I use this technique a lot with people that suffer from anxiety or weight loss. As I get them to kind of chisel at that image of themselves, they'll start to notice these subtle changes inside their life. And the reason why they're noticing these subtle changes in their life is because they're directly attacking that personality and that image of themselves in a way they never thought of. Because you never really thought about how you view yourself. Like, how many times have you said, well, this is how I view myself? How many times have you realized that that image that you have of you recreating a memory is kind of like the image from the third person, like a camera's watching you? It's not really the first person. We never record images in the first person. It's always the third person. And to be honest, there's no way of us actually being able to see ourselves jumping into a car, eating a bowl of cereal, having a conversation with a friend. Yet for some reason, we always remember it that way. And that's because our subconscious mind is creating a theme, is creating a story, and it's feeding the story back to us. Sure, Sheikh, go ahead.
Yeah, didn't mean to interrupt, but there is actually a live question that was texted that came to me saying, what if somebody doesn't believe in subconscious or hidden mind?
If somebody doesn't believe it, then you could test it, right? Let's say, for instance, you go to 4, right? You automatically aren't conscious of it. Your subconscious mind takes over, shifts your mind. Well, it shifts your face, your body to fall a certain angle to protect yourself. And none of that is anything you consciously did. Or another example may be when you go to put your hand on the stove. Your subconscious mind is telling you that it's hot. If you turn that nerve off, you aren't going to feel any pain, and you're possibly going to set your hand on fire. But that's all your subconscious mind doing. So it's not like some metaphysical thing that we're going, if this actually exists or not. No, this is a concrete part of your personality and something that's actively a part of you. Do you feel like that answers the question, or do you need me to go a little bit more in depth?
No, I think, I mean, I'm just talking about myself as a young person. When I was young, I did not know about it. As I delve into it more and more, I find out. So I think you can say a little bit more, or you can keep it for discussion later on also. That's okay. You should be going with your own planned discussion if you'd like. So that's fine. But I got your answer.
Well,
Thank you.
let me just say
Sure.
something, Jeff. Many times what happens is at that younger age, when you're at that level, you do not know much about subconscious mind. It is something that comes through exploration more of anything else, or if somebody teaches you these things. Just off the bat, many times people would be like, what is subconscious mind? So I also found it in my younger age, uh, more of it through education than just knowing it. And the main thing is it needs to make sense to the people. And the examples you are giving, if people start thinking objectively, because what happens is your conscious mind is going to switch off very fast so that it doesn't let you think that you have a subconscious mind controlling everything. But think about how your whole thing is. You're not taking and thinking every single time you take a breath. Every single time you're digesting something or your blood is pumping, you're not thinking about it. Something is doing it. So if you start exploring those questions in your mind, how does it do it? You know that there is something else that is driving all these things. Like the examples you gave about the car. Once you're driving a car, in the beginning, everything is hitchy. You have to learn because your conscious mind is there. Or even a bicycle, if a person is looking at that. But after some time, you are driving or riding it without thinking. Why? And how does that happen? So my answer to the question would be in exactly what Jeff said, and adding to it is that start thinking in that manner, and then you will realize this there is something. Need to explore more? Go and explore more. There is so much on the internet about it. The thing is, it is going to finally help you, not going to be negative. That's what I would say. So Jeff,
Absolutely.
please take over.
And I love that fact that question was brought up, because something else I've noticed about the subconscious mind is that oftentimes we'll have a dialogue inside our brain, and there's many different names for this internal dialogue, but I like to call it a negative coach. And a negative coach is basically that part of your mind telling you that you can't do something. Now, my negative coach is not as loud as it used to be, because I shut him up. I said, listen, shut up. I need to be successful. You're going to need to zip those lips. But other people have a negative coach that is extremely loud, and they take their word as the word of God. Anything their negative coach tells them to be true, they carry it out like a mission. And people oftentimes aren't aware that this negative coach is sabotaging them, because it's been created in order to protect them, but it's harming them. And one particular way that the negative coach gets developed It's not through negative parenting, it's not through negative teachers, which it is possible, but the surest way a negative coach is developed is from the sting of failure. When you fail something and you observe around at everybody looking at you, and your subconscious mind decides, I'm going to protect you so that you never are made to look foolish again. So it develops from a conception of failure and setbacks. And over life, if you keep listening to it, it's going to continue to shut you down over and over and over, because it's going to tell you, it's going to give you excuses that have you fight for your limitation. Like I created a post the other day about a friend of mine that I was talking to, extremely intelligent individual. She could do anything she wants to do. She has a great job, but is sick of it and doesn't want to work in that job anymore. And when I provide her with solutions to get out of the job and work somewhere else, she gives me all these reasons why she can't leave the job. Mind you, she doesn't give me any reasons why she can leave. She gives me all the reasons she can't leave, because it's her negative coach stopping her from being successful. It's her negative coach protecting her. Because we're all entrepreneurs here, so we can all relate with how many of our family members say, you're going to trade a steady job for something unproven. And it's like, yeah, I don't like working for anybody else. As crazy as that sounds, but it's because we've tuned out our negative coach and our loved ones have it. Just imagine what kind of world we would have if the entire world tuned out this negative coach. And this negative coach is so toxic and problematic because people will live their whole life with it. And there's a phrase that like I may have repeated it before, but it's so powerful. And that's that people won't fight for their dreams, but they will fight for their limitations. And that phrase always hits me so hard. Because whenever we're coaching a client, whenever we're meeting with a friend that we know is capable of doing more, when we're coaching them and telling them of how great they are and how much they can accomplish, they're always arguing with you like, no, I am not that great. I cannot accomplish this. Nobody's going to believe in me. And it's like, wow, the way they're talking to you is how they're talking to themselves on the inside. And that's so sad and destructive. And if you could take this away, which that was a great question, Sheikh, because I wasn't even thinking about that. If you could take this away from this talk, is do not fight for your limitations. Fight against them. Fight for your dreams. Don't fight for your limitations. And with that, I wanted to open the panel up because I'm not too sure how we're looking with time.
Oh, we're good with time actually, and that's good. We can always start any kind of discussion anybody has, so that's wonderful. But yeah, I think the discussion that you and Raj had, that is profoundly true, and I agree with the thoughts that Raj has said. I did not know, and I'm like, how can a person have two minds, and how does it work, and all those, but little that I knew at that time. Later, I found out that actually your 90 or more % of your work is actually done by your subconscious mind, which is sometimes we're not even aware of it completely. So that was amazing.
I have a
It was a
question.
surprise to me.
Sure.
That was excellent. It was just very nice. I was enjoying thoroughly. But when I look at the practical problem, like I'm the person, how do I know that my negative coaching is coaching me and not the positive coaching? How do you diagnose? And when do you think that you have to seek help? I'm a doctor, so I know that you have certain symptoms. So either you yourself recognize symptoms and go to a doctor for diagnosis, proper diagnosis and treatment. But if you yourself don't know that what is happening, what is your guidance to go where and do what, in terms of that? Yeah.
And I love this question because it gives me a chance to be a little creative. And the best way to do it is to write down everything you want to accomplish. right?
Okay.
Write about 20 things you want to accomplish in life. And then write down all the reasons why you can accomplish them and all the reasons you can't accomplish them. And go through this list with a loved one and see which one you can rule out. Now, the great thing about going through this list with a loved one is I thought I could be a singer until I went to the Dominican Republic and went up on stage and the whole crowd booed me. I was not a singer. I should have listened to my mother. I should have listened to my brothers. Everybody was right. That was a delusion. I cannot be a singer. So there are certain things that you can't do. Like tomorrow, if you go, I want to be the best actor in the world, and you have that on your list, and you go, well, this is what I got to do, and your loved one goes, listen, you're not Denzel. Relax, right? That loved one is going to be able to tell you, you really can't do this. But then you're going to see, okay, but motivational speaker, this is what I could do. I have to reach out to these people. I have to do presentations. I have to get educated. I have to have a reason why. Then you start to identify, okay, these are tangible steps. These are realistic things I can do, and these aren't. And as you start to identify that you have realistic things, what are the things stopping me from doing this? Like, why can't I do cold calling to get booked speaking engagements? Why can't I go to medical school? Why can't I take my MCATs to go to a medical school? Like, once you start to identify these things holding you back, then you know you have a problem. And you seek professional help when you want this bad enough and you feel like something's stopping you from getting it, if that makes sense.
Very good. Thank you.
Ron, I know many of us, we actually work with the human mind anyway, with especially as a coach or anybody that you're mentoring. I mean, every time you're working with somebody's mind anyway. But Ron, I know you work as a relationship coach, so you must be working very closely with some people. So there must be some kind of influence that you create for some conscious mind, or you have some kind of idea or definition or perception about that as well. For young people who are exposing themselves to this kind of phenomena for the first time, what would you say? When you're looking like my younger brother to me today, but on your part, would you like to say something? Any question? Anything comes to your mind?
Thank you, Sheikh and Jeff. In the context of relationships, as a preteen, I was very low confidence. I had no confidence I could date anybody. I do say somewhat as a joke, but it's an absolute truth. Marty, my wife of 52 years, is the only girl who has ever given me her correct telephone number. So I say that only a little bit in jest, but as a preteen, I had a subconscious mind that after enough attempts at asking for a date, I just knew the answer would be no. Therefore, I'm not even going to ask. But here are two questions. I have been maybe somewhat jokingly, but maybe seriously diagnosed as having obsessive compulsive disorder. Every time I'm driving, I am thinking about an oncoming car if it were to cross the center line or a median strip, something of that nature. I want to be mentally prepared to know how to react. When I am crossing a bridge, every time I do, I'm thinking, what if I were to go off the bridge and I'm in the water? How do I escape? How do I help others in the vehicle escape? Jeff, is even thinking about the driving, about being hit, is that a negative thought that I shouldn't even consider? Should I not even consider defensive driving?
And I love this question. This is something my clients always ask me. And what you're engaging is imaginary thinking. And this is basically where you're creating a hypothetical situation that's never going to happen. And then you ruminate over that situation, which you become what you focus on. So if you think about crashing enough times, then your heart is going to speed up anytime a car gets closer to you. So you're essentially creating your reality, because the more fearful you are, the more prone you are to accidents. So one way to start looking at this is under the framework that is your imagination creating this problem for you. Because like you said it yourself, you're using kind of that what if thinking. And instead of focusing on what could possibly happen, you can start to focus on what if I go home and Marty has a full meal cooked out for me and it's my favorite dish. Or what if I go home and I have a voicemail from this client that I've been excited about working on, that I've been excited about working with. Like there's so many other what if scenarios that you could think about that are going to allow you to feel better. And that isn't going to happen, but this is about controlling your state. So if you focus on the imaginary thoughts of something negative happening, then your whole personality and your confidence is going to take a hit. But if you start to focus on the imaginary scenario of something positive going to happen, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I'm just saying that your mindset is going to be more upbeat and confident. And that's what's going to prevent you from having an accident, not any of these other things. Does that answer your question?
Well, in part. Now, Jeff, let me tell you very honestly, I do not drive in fear of an oncoming car hitting me. I just want to be mentally prepared. I can have a conversation with Marty knowing that, yep, there's going to be good times when we get home, whether she's with me or not. But I want to be mentally prepared. So my question is, okay, even though I want to be mentally prepared for an accident, or let's say I just being mentally prepared in the context of defensive driving, is that allowing the subconscious to happen? Because I don't fear it. I just want to be mentally prepared.
Yeah, that's not a problem. That's you're just being a cautious driver, and that's not at all a problem. It only becomes a problem when you're checking your mirror all the time. But if it's like the mere thought of thinking it is not a problem at all.
Okay, and somewhat jokingly, and I'll close with this, Jeff. A part of my obsessive compulsive disorder is a matter of the way I eat. I am the kind of person who, rather than if I have three different items on my plate, meat, vegetable, and something else, I will eat one at a time, whereas other people will eat all three at the same time. And so some people will say, you're very predictable, Ron. I know exactly what you're going to do. That's why you're obsessive compulsive. And so I'll just close with that little bit of funny.
Ron, I'd like to comment. My daughter is a little bit like you. We say she has a compartmentalized stomach. She eats one thing at a time. But I'd like to key in on something that, if I may, that you mentioned earlier, the negative coach. And within, and we all have that negative coach within us. And something that I noticed early on in my coaching career is that negative coach, and I hadn't heard it used, that term before, but I like that term. I'll borrow that if I have your permission, Jeffrey. But that negative thinking, or that negative coach, what I have discovered is that that's the reason most of my clients are stuck. And the clients that come to me, they're stuck. They're like they're in quicksand or in mud, and they can't move forward. And what I've discovered, and I would be interested to see your take on this, Jeffrey, and the other of you that coach, and I think most of you do, is that I found that most of the time this relates to some experience, oftentimes going back as far as early childhood. It has been said that we are wired for success. We're born absolutely perfect. But once we come out of the mother's womb, where we're very comfortable, we suddenly, maybe we're slapped on the butt or the back to get us to breathing, and we see the bright lights and whatever, and it's scary. It's a scary world that we're introduced to. And so little by little, every experience that a person has had in that childhood is beginning to reprogram them for failure. In the event that you were raised in a home where arguing was often there, or for goodness forsake, domestic violence, that's having an impact on you. And one of the most astonishing coaching experiences that I've ever had was actually with a psychologist. He speaks internationally. I'd known him for a number of years. He came to me and he said, Glenn, this was right after COVID hit. He said, everything's been canceled. I don't know what to do. I can't do anything. And I said, well, there's all kinds of virtual things you can be. And I said, but even though I know you, let's talk a little bit about your childhood. What's the most memorable negative experience you've ever had in your childhood? He said, oh my God. And it was like a switch flipped. He said, I was 6 years old. It was snowing. We were in Detroit, Michigan. My father asked me to go out and shovel snow. I didn't want to shovel snow, and instead wanted to watch TV where it was warm inside. So after a while of me pretending to shovel snow, my father said, okay, Wimp, just go inside. So what he reverted to was that negative coach, shall we say, that negative programming of him feeling he was a failure, and he reverted to being that 6-year-old wimp. And, and that's exactly where he was, because he didn't know what to do when COVID hit. Anyone else found that to be true? And is this congruent with your teaching, Jeffrey?
I found it to be extremely true, and I found it to be a muscle that we're working. And a lot of these individuals are unintentionally working a fear muscle, that the more you utilize it and the more you get rewarded by not having to face your fear, the bigger it grows, and the bigger it grows. And it gets to the point in adulthood where you learn how to manage it so nobody sees it. So this is absolutely something I've seen in a ton of clients. And I do think that it's something related to the childhood, although sometimes people don't remember, and it doesn't have to necessarily be a traumatic event. It could be a slow series of little things that add up.
Yeah, it's like a parent. I had one where the father said, you're stupid. You'll never amount to anything. And sure enough, they were having trouble ever accomplishing anything. So it was little by little, that gradual reprogramming. So thank you so much, Jeffrey. And this is so enlightening. And one of the other things in the introduction for me is that I'm a lifelong learner, and this has been a great experience. And thank you, Sheikh and Raj and all of the rest of you for putting together this amazing.
And I also have one more.
Glenn,
Go ahead, Ron. I have one more tip I wanted to give, and that's that we're often it's always the chicken or the egg scenario when you're talking about confidence, right? Do you wait till you have the confidence of doing something, or do you apply it and then you get the confidence afterwards? And from my experience is that you apply it, and as you apply it, you start getting the confidence. A lot of people think you have to wait till you have enough confidence to do something, but the confidence is never going to magically come to you. You have to apply it in that anxious state. And as you continue to fail, you start to develop competency in that area. And that was the last thing that I wanted to share.
Glenn,
Can I say something, Aaron? No, as you know, as I was visualizing the issue, one is the person himself or herself, and the other responsibilities are of their parents, of their friends who are around that person. So the responsibility is to yourself. But like if my sister or brother, I see that something is happening, that he or she is not happy, not succeeding or depressed or something, I have a major role to play. And I think it will be nice to get your advice what others have roles to play. You notify, you counsel, you take him or her somewhere, or you sit down and chat. And then, so what would be the prescription in that regard? Not to yourself alone, but also the family members that are around you, friends. I mean, in the teaching institutions, you see people are there, people are working virtually, people are depressed, they don't know what to do, they have to have a good grade and other things. So people have various mental situations, and not all of those are positive. You really have to struggle a lot to be on the win-win situation, and fulfill your requirements. But the friends see you, your roommates see you, and what would be the roles of the others? I think that's what I would like to hear from you.
So I think the role of others would be to refer the person out, but that could be a struggle. And I often like to use kind of like the Steve Jobs reality distortion example, where he had this ability to distort reality, make things seem what he wanted to seem. So as you're explaining with your loved one that they're creating a reality distortion field of making things worse than what they seem, and it's not their fault, it's just a funk that they've gotten into, and they kind of need to seek outside help to help them with this, then I think they'll be more willing to seek help once you frame it to them in that manner. That is not actually them, is part of a problem or phase that they're going through, and the only way to get out of it is to speak to a professional about it.
Okay, thank you.
Ron, you wanted to ask something?
Glenn, I was going to just affirm what you said based on my coaching experience that very close to 100% of those who are not performing at their potential are not performing at their potential because of something said in their past. I can relate just a little bit very quickly my personal experience relating to dating. I think, as I've thought through this, the genesis of my low confidence in dating was a result of a person, maybe two, telling me early in age, well, I thought you knew. I thought you would have known, should have known. I processed that as, well, I guess I'm stupid because this person indicated I should have known. That, in turn, related to a low self confidence in developing relationships. And that, in turn, just made me feel I was not accepted. One of the reasons Marty and I have developed our relationship course, which when I first thought about it, this seems so elementary. No one is, I mean, everybody knows what it is about a relationship. However, I know from my personal experience that people know right away. And Jeff, I'm guessing in your role and every one of us as a coach, you can pretty well sense within maybe 30 seconds of a conversation whether you accept me or not. And if you don't accept me now, and maybe I perceive you will not accept me on the long term, that is going to affect my performance if I allow it to. So if I was late 20s before I developed what I hope is a healthy self-confidence regarding relationships and the like, to where I have learned to process negative comments, that you're certainly free to make a negative comment about me, but if I choose not to believe it, then I am not going to allow that comment to affect my behavior. So Jeff and Glenn, that's how I have processed a lot of information and relating just a little bit to my personal life. So I'm interested in hearing from others.
No, yeah, and to use this, I completely agree with you. The fact that within the first 30 seconds, you're able to know whether or not somebody likes you, and then you could take that to go south is a great example of something that and I'm working on a term for it. For right now, I got it as the failure effect or the foreigner effect. And what typically happens is those that have failed in life early on multiple times, when they overcome it, they tend to outperform other people because they don't have as many blocks, internal blocks, because they've already have success with overcoming failure. And oftentimes, this comes with people that come from another country to America, and they have to deal with the stigma of having an accent. And then once they overcome that stigma, they're able to achieve other levels of success because they've already kind of surpassed that mental block that just because I'm not successful here doesn't mean I'm going to be successful in the long run. And this goes with like so many different assets that at a certain time, what used to be your curse becomes your gift. What used to be the thing that held you back is now the reason why you're resilient. And I think that speaks volumes to young Titans. Because if you adopt that mentality that what made you weird or different or what made you weak is what essentially is going to make you stronger, you could take every negative situation in life and use it as a badge as to the reason why you're able to uplift yourself.
Yeah, Jeffrey and Ron, that talking about the first 30 seconds in meeting an individual, the opinions that we form, I use that a lot because of my background of an executive search business. And then later on, I added on a temporary staffing service. And the search business was international. The staffing service was about a 50-mile radius of Chattanooga, Tennessee. I had 3 offices there. But as a result, I often got invited to speak at colleges and different organizations where there were younger people about interviewing. And I would teach them that the first 30 seconds of an interview is the most crucial point of it, that you have got to be prepared for. And I think it's appropriate to bring that out because we've got so many young Titans that hopefully will, if not are here live today, will listen to the broadcast. But being prepared for that interview, that first 30 seconds, because in that first 30 seconds, and I've hired thousands of people myself over the years, you either make the decision immediately, I like this person or I don't like this person. I think this person's a good fit or I don't think they're a good fit. The rest of the interview is all spent to prove or disprove that initial reaction, that initial opinion that you formed. What do you think about that, Jeffrey?
Absolutely. I think that's incredibly true. I think a lot of the times we make our like quick judgments about somebody, and now it's up to them to disprove us. And that's why it's so important that when you go into interviews, you look in the eye, you feel confident, you speak up, you're well dressed, you shave. Like all these little things are important because some people are just looking for the littlest reason to fit you into a box and not have to deal with you. So if you come in and you don't look them in the eyes, that person's perception of you could be that you're weak, and this is the reason why I can't give them this job because it's weak. So try to, as much as possible, be self-aware of any of these little giveaways that you aren't aware of by practicing interviewing skills with other people in order to pick up all these tendencies that you aren't even aware of. And a firm handshake goes a long way.
Glenn,
That is
thank
wonderful. Yeah, Ron, I was just going to.
I want to interject very quickly with no intention of plugging Marty and me, but this afternoon we are going to do a podcast on overcoming interviewing fears. I did a 3-part video, each 7 or 8 minutes, on interviews. One is a preparation for the interview. The other one is the interview itself. And then the third one is a follow-up to the interview. I personally used to be petrified at interviewing, but Glenn, you're right on target. The first 30 seconds is when you make the initial impression. And if you're not confident, and there's a difference between confidence and arrogance, but when you project confidence without being arrogant, you are going to do well with that interview, but preparation. So Marty and I this afternoon are going to do a podcast on overcoming fear for interviews. And but thank you for the opportunity. It is free of charge. If any of the young Titans listening would like to get access to that, I'll make sure they will be able to get access.
I think the lesson there, it's kind of like those of us that enjoy the big stage. The key to it is practice, practice, practice. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice. The same thing with an interview. The same thing with any big meeting. There's never a major meeting that I go into that's of any importance that I don't mentally go through that meeting trying to anticipate the questions that will be asked and what my response will be. And invariably, when I do it, it's amazing the outcome. Here again, it's the power of the subconscious mind and the conscious mind combined, I believe. And one of the other things I found, which I'm sure you'll probably cover today, Ron, in your program, is that the applicants often don't study the company they're interviewing with.
That's true.
And one of the first things I would often say is, tell me about my company. Tell me why you want to work for my company. Blah, 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 blah. What do you know about my company? What do you know about me? And most of the time, they can't answer the question.
Yeah, Glenn, don't mean to interrupt. Just we're at the almost at the last 1.5 minute of our program. So, but what you said, I was actually going to mention that also, Ron, that you actually graciously gave some of those, couple of those videos to me. They are actually in the YouTube channel for YTP as well. Those are the short ones, but I am sure young Titans who are able to jump onto your program or get some of those information, that will be really, really helpful. I wish I knew them 20, 30 years ago. But with that, any last moment comment, anything? Otherwise, we're going to end this program today in next 30 seconds. And next week, we're tentatively, there is a LinkedIn expert is going to be in the speaker role next week, and the week after that we have another coach from Texas joining in, and then at some point we're hoping that Glenn can come in as a speaker also to add some value to the young Titans.
Thank you.
Last few seconds.
Jeff, for his excellent presentation. I think this was very rewarding and very nice. And thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Sid, for bringing him here. It was really enlightening. Thank you. Thanks from my side. Yeah.
Great.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Jeff, so much for your time. Glenn, thank you for jumping in with us as a guest. We appreciate that. As usual, it was tremendous helpful, your questions and the input. Raj, thank you despite your health condition and wherever you plugged in. And we will all see you next week.
Thanks a lot. Great program. We learned a lot, Jeff.
Thank you.